After defeating Anderson Silva, Jake Paul is feeling good. But should he put his fighting days behind him? One important person in his life thinks so, and it is none other than his older brother, Logan Paul. But why would Logan want his brother to retire so early in his boxing career? Also, is it finally time that the world starts respecting Jake Paul, aka the problem child, as a pro boxer? Let's take a look. First up, Logan Paul, aka Jake Paul's older brother, has stated that Jake should retire following his win over Anderson Silva. But why? Well, let's take a look. Logan Paul, aka Jake Paul's brother, has apparently asked him to stop boxing after he recently defeated Anderson Silva. This past weekend, Paul, aged 25, defeated UFC great Silva, aged 47, to extend his winning streak to 6 professional fights. Since making his professional debut, the YouTuber turned boxer has increased the competition level. Logan, however, believes that Jake should put his gloves away after defeating Silva, which is something his brother doesn't agree with. After defeating MMA veteran Anderson Silva, Jake Paul declared he would ignore his brother's advice to call it quits and instead pursue his dream of winning the world championship. Paul defeated Silva by points in Arizona, improving his record to 6-0 with 4 KOs. He criticized Nate Diaz of the UFC and Canelo Alvarez of Mexico after the fight. Jake told MMA Fighting, "Anything else that occurs now is simply a cherry on top. My brother suggested I should stop working and retire, leaving everyone in awe." Jake continued, stating, "A kid that just went 6-0, beat some of the best MMA fighters, and then doesn't do it anymore. I'm not going to do that, but I have exceeded my own expectations. I think this is just the start. I'm really starting to get good, and there's a lot of people that I want to beat. I also want to be a champion." Paul fought for the first time against fellow YouTube sensation KSI a year after Logan made his professional debut, but the older Paul brother has since joined WWE and doesn't appear to be fighting anytime soon. The problem child said that his brother spoke to him shortly before he entered the ring to confront Silva and added that he is motivated by Logan's success in the WWE. Now, Paul is aware that some of his critics will never be won over, but he thinks his reputation is beginning to grow. According to the WBC president, anyone who says Jake is not a real boxer is merely bitter and a hater, and that he deserves all the praise and respect. Now, after defeating Silva, many have questioned if it is time to respect Paul as a real professional boxer. After defeating former UFC champion Anderson Silva by majority decision on Saturday in Glendale, Arizona, Jake Paul improved to 6-0 in his boxing career. How ought the combat sports community to process the outcome? We start off by discussing some of the main lessons learned from the match and the crucial query, is it finally time for everyone to respect Jake Paul as a boxer? First things first, let's address claims that the fight was rigged and Silva was robbed. There is no other option but to start by addressing this component. Following Paul's victory over Silva, a loud minority of social media commentators have expressed their belief that either Silva should have won the fight based on the scorecards or that the UFC legend intentionally cheated or participated in a plot to rig the results. It's difficult to express how ridiculous that idea is. If you want to argue that Silva's participation in this boxing battle with Paul and subsequent defeat tarnishes his reputation in combat sports, we can't make a case for that. Now, it's acceptable to feel that way, but it's quite another to go further and allege shadiness regarding the result. You're charging Silva with a serious offense that would undo everything he's accomplished. No matter how sad you are that Silva lost or how blinded by hatred for Paul you may be, there better be some solid evidence available before casting that kind of shade over this battle. There was nothing shady about how the fight went down, and even though the round-by-round scoring can be questioned, the right and deserving guy prevailed. Secondly, does Paul need to go up against a current boxer to start to garner the masses' respect? No matter what Paul does, there will always be those who will not consider the possibility that he merits even a modicum of praise. If you fall into that category, it would be best for you to quit reading right away, because what follows will not be to your liking. Despite Silva being past his prime, Paul's victory over the former UFC champion, in a fairly straightforward manner, still means something. It's the next phase in Paul's combat sports career, and it will significantly impact his growth. We strongly believe Paul's power and durability were seriously underrated in the pre-fight analysis for this battle. He grabbed a couple of crackers from Silva, but didn't seem particularly alarmed or shaken by it. Silva was certainly capable of a knockout from start to finish due to his accuracy, but his might wasn't sufficient to intimidate Paul, allowing him to fight a little more freely. Once he entered the ring and began exchanging blows, Paul could only interpret that, and he handled it effectively. Paul improved from his previous bout with Tyrone Woodley after a break of roughly 10 months. He appeared far more at ease in the ring than he had before, and he remained unfazed through some extremely tense interactions with Silva, both at a distance and up close. It certainly would have been troubling if he hadn't demonstrated those improvements, since at 25, Paul ought to be progressing match by match given the time and resources he has devoted to his art. Does that imply that Paul ought to fight a top-tier boxer? Even though you might want to see him defeated, doing so would be unwise. Although Paul is still a beginner, it might be said that he is choosing a more difficult path than other boxers. But fighting retired boxers can only continue on for a while if Paul wants his career to be more than just matches against veteran MMA fighters who switched to boxing. He keeps mentioning a bout with Canelo Alvarez as his ideal matchup, but for that to be somewhat possible, he'll need to defeat a respectable boxer, and then he will more than likely prove himself and garner the respect we bet he desires. So this leaves a big question: who will Jake the problem child Paul go up against next? Jake Paul was advised to compete against genuine opponents in a boxing ring. As the problem child faced former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva on Saturday, he accomplished that and more. Paul was able to disprove his critics while everyone was watching him. Paul defeated Silva with a unanimous vote, 77-74, 78-73, and 78-73. The Glendale, Arizona crowd inside Desert Diamond Arena was on its feet as he knocked down Silva in the 8th and final round. Paul's current boxing record is 6-0. Paul is once again on the top of the world after defeating Silva. He may claim victory against a renowned opponent who, at the age of 47, gave him a battle for his life. But this leaves the question: who will Paul go up against next? Will it be Conor McGregor? Even if it's not the most likely, let's start with the biggest one. McGregor, a former UFC champion, has made no secret of his obsession with boxing. In a boxing battle in 2017, McGregor competed against Floyd Mayweather and lost by TKO. Is he going to have a fight with Paul? Instead of watching a hypothetical rematch between Mayweather and McGregor, Paul would like to take on McGregor. Paul said, "Me versus Conor McGregor is a far larger battle," and we certainly agree. But it must be noted that to return to the octagon, McGregor must first spend 6 months in the USADA testing pool, UFC President Dana White noted during the UFC 280 post-fight news conference. McGregor hasn't participated in the testing pool in weeks, as he has been filming a movie while also trying to train and heal his broken tibia. Or could it be Tommy Fury, finally? Over the past 2 years, 2 scheduled fights have occurred between Paul and Fury. Fury withdrew from the contest in December 2021 due to an apparent rib injury. Last summer, the fight had to be postponed once again due to Fury's visa problems. Paul once decided against using the Fury versus Fury scenario, but is there still hope for a third fight? On November 13th, Fury will face Paul Bamba as part of the undercard to Floyd Mayweather versus Deji. A fight with Paul might be feasible for him if he comes out victorious. Even John Fury, Tommy's father, said that. However, it all depends on the results and the negotiations, but we kind of want to see this fight finally happen. What do you think? And there you have it, everything you need to know about Logan Paul and why he thinks his younger brother should retire now from boxing following his recent victory. Now make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. Did you think Jake was going to come out victorious against Silva? Who do you think he will go up against next? Or will he listen to his brother and retire? Let us know. And as always, thanks for watching.